supporting agriculture for the implementation of the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So the last two guests are Marco Geneletti from Fondazione, Promozione, Acciaio and Massimo Medugno from Assocarta. Good morning, you all. You can remove your mask if you want, because we guarantee distancing. We've seen how, over the past 2 days, we've heard about biogas and biomethane that can be available to the industry. Especially when it comes to the hard-to-abate sectors where it's more difficult to abate emissions. Let's start with Geneletti. Biogas, biomethane, can there be an answer to this problem? Good morning, and thank you for the kind invitation, first of all. Well, I would start from one of the statements I heard from one of the speakers this morning. They said, what's the impact of industry in general in terms of emissions? Well, the hard-to-abate sectors, including steel, have to decarbonize. And it's a primary need of our industry. If we consider the different technology whereby steel can be produced, and I will go back to a more familiar field for me. In Italy, there's a prevalence of electric furnaces. Electric furnaces are the cleanest of the possible solutions, but steel produced with electrical furnaces is produced using electricity combined with the chemical energy produced by the combustion of methane. Downstream productions from steel bar into finished products, regardless of what the finished product is, can be a pipe or in preheating or heating furnaces. Well, if we start from this context, and if we consider the methane and the combustion of methane is one of the main causes for CO2 emissions on the part of the steel industry, well, of course, we would come to the conclusions that methane is the main offender of our carbon footprint. So using renewable energy in the place of methane is definitely a most welcome solution. There are two alternatives also to consider. Green hydrogen, which might also help to cut down emissions. This, of course, implies a number of conditions, as already said, not only today, but in most of the presentations we heard yesterday. They're not necessarily linked to the economic and financial sustainability, because these processes, which I would like to remind are very capital intensive, need capex, but especially for the installation of new plants, we will need lots of additional components that we don't have. Additional burners and furnaces. So we have to understand also what's the impact on variable costs, and which must not be forgotten. On top of this, we have to consider that the steel sector will become the off-taker of biomethane, of hydrogen, but we must not forget about the possible consequences that the changing process might have on the production cycle and on the quality of the finished product. With respect to hydrogen, everything that is being debated currently in the steel sector point to the fact that replacing methane with hydrogen has no impact on the quality of finished products or the quality of maintenance. For example, the ladles or the different equipment that is used. So there's a strong push towards decarbonization. There are a few concerns that we cannot neglect, of course, but there's a strong push towards decarbonization. So as far as I understand, the option biomethane is today, and the hydrogen option is maybe for the future, if I understood correctly. Well, let's say that both technologies are very interesting, but they both have some gray areas. Biomethane is definitely available today with a number of procurement problems in terms of the quantity of biomethane available and the, of course, procurement flow to different steel mills. With respect to hydrogen, as it is well known, there's a project that is being completed right now. It's a project funded by the European Union to introduce hydrogen in the industrial sector. And the world of steel is one of the protagonists of this deal. I don't expect any delays in implementation, subject to all the conditions I mentioned earlier, of course. Well, great. Thank you, Marco Geneletti. Medugno, what about you from Assocarta? Well, first of all, good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to tell about our interest. Unlike steel, we are clearer. Well, I had a few slides, but apparently I can't show them, but we consume 2.5 billion cubic meters of gas. So maybe this figure is enough to give you an indication of our interest. And we are part of the emission trading sector, so in all the regulation regarding, for example, CO2. Because we produce energy, starting from fossil fuels. But allow me to say a couple of words. The choice of gas in Italy wasn't a choice against the environment. We talked about natural gas in the past. Well, the choice in the past, by using gas and by using technology like cogeneration, was precisely that of minimizing the environmental impact and to be very efficient. Because in terms of energy production, we are more efficient than other industries. If we consider electrification, we would realize that we still have problems today to have 1 megawatt more. So we've got problems regarding the good management of electricity procurement. So yes, we are definitely interested, given our consumption levels. Well, I've had a look at a few numbers, and they're all very attractive, but I have to understand where we are headed. But definitely, biogas and biomethane are for us a very important part of a decarbonization strategy. As my colleague said, unlike hydrogen, apart from working on costs, on the costs of biogas and biomethane, what technology is available. So this is definitely an important aspect to consider. And like steel, like other manufacturing sectors, because this has to be recalled, we are a piece of circular economy in Italy. If we recycle 80% of Italian paper, well, paper is a biomaterial, so we are related somehow. You're cousins, so to speak. Well, the origin is the same. It's a renewable source. Paper is a renewable source as well, because forests and the recycling of paper are renewable sources. So we are related, as I said. Well, there's no technological problem. There's a problem of availability. But I think that with the National Recovery and Resilience Plan and everything I've heard over the past few days and that I heard this morning, well, I think it is extremely important to give biogas and biomethane to industrial sectors, to make them available to these sectors. It's important to have a good energy recipe. We cannot electrify everything. We won't make it. And it will probably be a mistake. We, as industrial sectors, at least the ones that use renewable sources, can become producers of biogas and biomethane. So we need to think about it. Anyway, I think I've got time to elaborate on this. Yes, definitely, it's a very exciting period. We're the circularity of circularity. That's too bad. I'm really in the middle of it. So you mentioned the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. Geneletti, are there enough resources in the National Recovery and Resilience Plan to reach the goals? Are the trajectories compatible with what you're thinking of? Yes. Well, first of all, I agree with the comments I heard. The plan is very ambitious, definitely, with an effort that, of course, has to be appreciated. So the National Recovery and Resilience Plan is key. There are some aspects that have to be considered and that regard the time for the implementation, for the financing and the sharing of rules, whereby all the investments are implemented, all the changes are made. And I would also add the difficulty we see sometimes in accessing these funds. I assume that less structured industrial structures that are not that accustomed to interact with such an interlocutor might encounter difficulties, but I'm convinced that the plan is enough, the resources are enough, and it's going to be the dawn on a new era. I'm really convinced about this. Yes, this is what we see. Medugno, if let's say your energy need is 100, how much could be replaced by biogas? Well, 2.5 billion. Well, everything, 100%. There are no technological problems there. It's just a question of having gas in the grid. That would be the question. And then businesses starting from sludges and from purification of water might produce biogas themselves. Probably it won't be enough to suit the needs of all sectors. Well, paper, of course, the paper sector benefits a lot from the separate collection of paper. Well, Italy is wishing to reach important results when it comes to recycling, and that could be a very important point of cooperation with municipal authorities. For example, we might take care of collecting paper for recycling, but the main question is rules, it is important to have the plants ready, first of all, because certain plants, well, are difficult to build. Well, let's say that the conditions are there, but sometimes the problem is to find the right procedures, to find the right incentives when it comes to the use of the industry, because, well, the users will come. It will be a driver, it will be enough to give us some trust and to make us feel more confident. What is missing is precisely this, I believe, a clear indication to businesses, and maybe 2 or 3 points would be enough to say this is the direction. Medugno, to conclude this round of opinions. Well, we've got a video message from the Vice President of Confindustria, Aurelio Regina. I think it's ready, so let's watch this message. Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank the Italian Biogas Consortium for organizing this initiative. Extremely useful and timely to take stock of the situation of the natural gas market and prospects for sustainable development. European climate policies that follow along the lines of the agreements in Paris are the most ambitious at a global level and will lead to a radical change of paradigm in the production, in the management, and in the use of energy. Long-term strategy provides for carbon neutrality with net zero emission to be reached over the next 30 years. With a strong growth in electrical generation using renewable sources, a dissemination of green gas and biofuels combined with more efficiency in plants and the transformation of available technology. The need to combine sustainability with competitiveness will create industrial development opportunities, and therefore action lines are needed in different policy sectors. First of all, to reinforce technology and technological development, speeding up bureaucratic times, investments. We must not forget that gas represents the price maker of the electricity sector in Italy and will keep playing a key role, a primary role in this sense, until renewable sources are able to completely replace traditional generation technology. The industrial sector and Confindustria that represents this sector look with great concern at the increase in the costs of energy commodities that are strictly related to environmental policies. The price of electricity has reached its historical peak, almost €200 per megawatt hour last week. Between June and August, supported by the underlying prices of natural gas in Europe, we recorded a 30% increase and more than 70% increase between August and September because of the emission shares in the CO2 auctions, €60 per ton in September, given also the reform of the ETS system. The increase in environmental targets defined in the Green Deal will imply the development of investments up to €650 billion over the past 10 years, and €30 billion will concern something additional. Without considering the transportation sector, that alone will need more than €800 billion. The national plan is facing with great is looking with great attention at this aspect. €70 billion is going to be allocated, and a considerable share for green gas. Gaseous fuels represent the most relevant energy commodities for competitiveness and for the sustainability of the industrial sector. The industrial processes are mainly thermal processes that need high temperatures. for which replacement with electricity is very limited. The industrial demand was mainly met by natural gas, whereas biomethane and hydrogen were considered for transportation. The transposition of the Director on the Promotion of Renewables envisages incentives for biomethane also for industrial applications. It is a proposal that for a long time Confindustria has been promoting, and we expect for the next few years to have a strong development in this field, provided that no disruption effects are hit in different sectors. Confindustria believes that a strategic vision on the system of gas is necessary also in Europe, with a special reference to the recent proposals made by the European Commission regarding the hydrogen and gas market decarbonization package and the famous Fit for 55 package that describes new decarbonization goals by 2030. The proposals for the development of biomethane and hydrogen, in addition to the recent increase in the price of natural gas, anticipate a potential development of environmental gaseous fuels that are sustainable. The European market of natural gas has seen a process of substantial convergence grow in terms of pricing in Central European countries, whereas Italy stands as a separate market with a price difference that risks becoming structural, thereby penalizing our country and at the same time making Europe be dependent insofar as 49% on imports from Russia. The development of green alternatives and the definition of a new body of rules for cross-border gas transfers will be essential to overcome this difficulty and give new momentum to the growth of the sector. In conclusion, I would like to express the need to exploit the current transition phase as an opportunity to look at the system as a whole, considering the interdependent relations and the degree of maturity of different sectors and energy sources, fossil fuels, renewable sources, to reach long-term goals in the most efficient way. Energy strategies that are industrial and environmentally friendly must be developed in an integrated manner, thereby shifting to a circular approach based on recovery, recycling, and reuse. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I wish you all the best. Thank you, Aurelio Regina, Vice President on Confindustria. I would like to say goodbye to our guests, Marco Geneletti and Massimo Medugno. Thank you.